Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So day 2 of Cheltenham, let's go through some of the races, or all of the races, and let's see what we thought of them. So the Ballymore was won very impressively by Impair et Pass. That looked impressive. That looked in the style of a horse who I think they might drop him back to Champion Hurdle. They might go over fences. I think they could do anything with Impair et Pass, to be honest. I thought it was very, very impressive. He beat Gaelic Warrior comfortably. The rest were good, but clearly not good enough. There's a load of support for Hermes Hélène, and once again it proved that the Irish were well in front of the English horses, the front four, all Irish. Interesting to see that the Willie Mullins trained at Champ Kiley was third. Now, Champ Kiley had tried 2.5 mile, 2 mile 3, whereas both Gaelic Warrior and Impair et Pass had not. They're both stepping up, and that's kind of something that Willie likes to do in the Ballymore. He did it with Sir Gerhard as well. If he just thinks there's no point me running 10 in the Supreme, he steps a couple up into the Ballymore, and they generally run really big races, and it's definitely an angle that we should be keeping an eye out for. Look for those horses that he's happy to step up at the Cheltenham Festival in the Ballymore. I think it turns into not a sprint, but I think you need to have that bit of speed about you to be able to go with them in the Ballymore, and that's probably what Hermes Hélène doesn't have. He probably wants further. I'm sure he'll be back for Paul Nicholls, particularly in England. Send him over fences next year. I think they will, and I'm sure he'll win more races. I think he could be the sort of like stage star sort of horse, maybe Brave Man's Game, but I don't think he'll then win a Brown Advisory or a finish second in a Gold Cup. But yeah, Impair et Pass, very impressive. Gaelic Warrior, he's done for connections. He's won them loads of money already. He's obviously won that lucrative Liffey handicap at Leopardstown last time out. He's done well. He is only young. That's really the only thing you can say about Gaelic Warrior. He is only 5, but then so is Impair et Pass. So I think Impair et Pass has got plenty of potential about him. I think he could be very, very smart, and he's probably, if you looked at the novice hurdles, I think he'll probably be the best of the novices. Even as good as Marine National and Facile Vega are, I think Impair et Pass will go on to be better than both of those in wherever they end up. Anything that was interesting? Not really in behind, so we'll move on. Second race was the Brown Advisory, won by the Real Wacker. Jerry Colombi was second, Bron third. Now, I know there was a lot of talk about Jerry Colombi. There was even the former owner of Jason the Militant who was suggesting that he should have been able to use the whip more on Jerry Colombi. At no time was there a suitable opportunity to use the whip. He was still in contention turning in. He then used the whip twice after the second last, and then 4 times after the last. Gave the horse time to respond. I think what he wanted was that thrashing, use of the whip motion, whip, 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 saying he responds every time. He did respond every time, but that doesn't mean you have the right to just hit the horse every single stride. You wait for them to respond. As soon as the response stops, you then use it again. I just think he got beat by not a better ride, but I just think the fractions, the timings, everything was spot on for the Real Wacker. Maybe not quite on for Jerry Colombi. Jerry Colombi will probably end up being the better horse. I'm not going to disagree with that. But on the day, the Real Wacker was the best horse, just. Of those behind, Sir Gerhard probably ran a better race than it looks. He didn't jump very well. He then actually moved into contention quite nice. You can see he reduced from 4.34 to 2.72. And the fact that there was that late money as well, he moved into contention quite nicely before dropping away. Now, I don't think that was his jumping. I don't think he stayed the trip. I'd be very interested to see him back over 2.5 and probably 2, and back over hurdles. I think they might as well go back over hurdles with him. I think he's wasting time over fences. That's 2 runs now. Neither have looked convincing over fences. Dropping back to hurdles, and I think he can be very, very good again. The one that I think Connections got wrong here was Thunder Rock. I mean, he'd already been beaten. Let me just show you. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing on my reopen. Here we go. Okay, so Thunder Rock had finished third to the Real Wacker and Montmorel. He'd finished third to Jerry Colombe and Balco Coastal. Why was he running here? Why was he running in the Grade 1 Brown Advisory? Both of those horses are in front of him, and both of those horses finished first and second. You know, the Real Wacker and Jerry Colombe. He was only ever going to finish probably at best fourth. He's finished sixth. He was so well handicapped. They should have been going for this handicap, and you can actually see I said down to 149. Feel the Grade 1s will find him out at Cheltenham. They did. However, the Ultima looks perfect. For the sponsors, they ran 3 under through 5 for some reason. And yeah, I was very disappointed to see that Thunder Rock was not running in the Ultima. I think he would have gone much closer in that. Granted, he may not have beaten Corach Rambler the way the race panned out, but he would definitely have gone close. And you know, this felt like a waste of a run for me at Thunder Rock here. On the same note, Indigo Breeze. Indigo Breeze would have been interesting in the plate. Why? Indigo Breeze had finished the next second to the Real Wacker at Cheltenham over 3 mile. I don't think he quite stayed the trip that day, whereas the Real Wacker did. Indigo Breeze then went to Leopardstown, disappointed after being quite well supported, and didn't turn up. I'm hoping there was just an issue rather than that they missed the chance to go and run a big race at Cheltenham. So keep an eye on both of those when they go into handicaps, Indigo Breeze and Thunder Rock. Moving on to the 250, the Coral Cup. Delighted with this one. 2 reasons. We had a decent each way on Camprond, who ran a good race, probably got there too soon, but I'm more pleased with Langadan. We tweeted, we made this post in December the 7th, 2022. Langadan for the Coral Cup. I think a lot of people thought he would be going back for the Martin Pipe again, because he obviously finished second to Galopin des Champs 2 years ago, and then last year was brought down. But I think they'd run out of time. And I said, however, I do think they will be back at Cheltenham in the Coral Cup, where Harry Skelton will be able to ride. And it wouldn't surprise me if, come race day, he was around this mark, backed off the boards, and at least went off a clear favourite. He didn't go off a clear favourite, I don't think. Let's have a look. No, he didn't go off favourite. He went off 5th favourite, but he did get up to win, which was a fantastic result for us. We were on, obviously, at bigger prices. Of those behind, Scaramanga. I mean, that's a great run for Willie Mullins. I'm sure he's going to get more out of Scaramanga than I think it was Paul Nicholls previously. I think he'll get more out of him. Keep an eye out for him where he goes next. You know, he'd only been running on the flat before that. Yeah, Scaramanga is also very interesting from this race. Scaramanga, Camprond, they might try and do that plan again. Let's just see how old Camprond is. He's only 7. It's very possible that they might try and plot that race again. And yeah, Langadan, this was only his 4th run that he was actually trying. The other horse I do want to keep my eye on, Sporting John. Keep an eye out for what mark he drops to now. He's going to be really well handicapped. This is his trip, but he didn't run very well here. But he was running off the wrong mark. So I'll be having a look at their handicap marks come Tuesday. This was our Camprond one. Good call from James Russell. Very interesting, consider ground went against him. Finished 3rd, and you can see he was actually still available at 20s. He got backed right into nearly favourite a few days before the off, and then at the off he was back out to 20s when nothing had really changed, which was very strange. Queen Mother Champion Chase, Energumene won it. Race fell apart. Edward Stone ran no sort of race whatsoever. The rest of them aren't anywhere near good enough to beat Energumene. As I've mentioned in my day 1 video, I really hope we see Energumene in this race next year. I'm sure we will, but I want to see him up against Constitution Hill. It's a waste of time for Constitution Hill to be running in the novice ranks over fences. They might as well, you know, you have 1 run, then a grade 2, and then turn up in the Queen Mother against Energumene. Otherwise, Energumene is still the best 2-miler at the moment. Moving on to the 410, the cross country. The 3 grade 1 winners finished 1st, 2nd and 3rd here. turning in, there was quite a few still in contention. By the end of the race, there was only 2. They were a mile clear of Franco de Port. It was a mile clear of the rest. I think the Irish are sending their Grade 1 horses that they don't know what to do with anymore, whereas the English are not doing that. Once they have a Grade 1 horse, they run them in Grade 1s for the rest of their career, even when they're finishing way out the back. Coming to the last, I was pretty confident Delta Work would outbattle Galvin. He outbattled Tiger Roll last year, or stayed on better than Tiger Roll. So that was a good result for us. Obviously, we were on Delta Work here, and we've highlighted Delta Work for the Grand National. He's one of our 4. Him and Corrick Rambler both won at the Cheltenham Festival. 2 run, 2 wins, both a little bit. Both a little bit shorter for the Grand National now, which is great. Moving on to the 450, the Grand Annual. Mascada won the race. Shouldn't have done. Dino Blue should have won that race. 2 terrible jumps at the last 2 fences. Would have seen Dino Blue win the race. And that kind of, it's very interesting because Dino Blue was beaten at Cork by Impervious. JP went and bought Impervious. Impervious won. And if we actually move on to the next race, and we'll come back to the Grand Annual, Fact and File ran at Leopardstown for JP McManus and was beaten by A Dream to Share. JP McManus went and bought A Dream to Share. A Dream to Share won. So keep an eye out for those horses that JP McManus buys after beating one of his own. He does that because he feels, my horse was really good and yet I still got beat. That horse must be really, really good. And I think they planned the Grand Annual really well with Dino Bleu. The thing with Dino Bleu, she's only 6. She's only 6. Surely comes back next year. If they can plan it quite nicely, similar to Andy Dufresne. If they get Dino Bleu off the same mark, or even within 3 or 4 pound of that mark, Dino Bleu will take all the beating next year because should have won this year. If she jumps the last 2, she does win. Of those behind, we had Andy Dufresne. He was never really close enough. Went off a lot shorter price. We advised him when he was 25 to 1. Went off 92, but disappointed. So, 25 to 1 into 92 loser is the same as a 9 to 2 out to 25 to 1 loser. It doesn't matter if they shorten. Of those behind, I guess maybe Time White, just purely because he was a massive price, shortened, was in contention. When falling, yeah, I'd probably just be looking at Dino Bleu. Keep an eye out where she goes next. So moving on to the bumper, as we mentioned, JP won it. JP finished 2nd. Again, JP bought the horse that beat his own horse. He then finishes 1st and 2nd. There has been a report come out today, or yesterday I think it was, Factor Far might go straight over fences rather than staying in bumpers, rather than staying in hurdle races. Is that because they've got A Dream to Share to run in the hurdle races? Of those for the English, Captain Teague ran a great race. Lecky Watson ran well. Was there anything that really caught my eye in behind? Not really. It was just those at the front, really. A Dream to Share, Factor Far, where do they go? So they are day 2's thoughts. Just going over them. Impere passed, very impressive. Surely comes back next year with a great chance wherever he ends up. Jerry Colombe probably is the best horse, but didn't win. That can happen sometimes. Thunder Rock should be running in a handicap soon. Sir Gerhard, don't give up on Sir Gerhard. Drop him back in trip and drop him back over hurdles. I think he'll bounce back. Thunder Rock and Indigo Breeze, as soon as they turn up in handicaps, will be very interesting. Indigo Breeze may well end up at the Punchestown Festival. Langadan, delighted with that. Camprond, delighted with that. Scaramanga is the one to take out the race, I feel. Willie Mullins will definitely get more out of him. Energumene, I hope to see Energumene against Constitution Hill next year. Delta Work has enhanced his Grand National claims. Dino Bleu, keep an eye out for Dino Bleu wherever she ends up next, and if they can get her back to this race off a similar mark, she would take all the beating next year. And the other angle is look out for the JP horses that beat JP horses, or the horses that beat JP horses that JP then goes and buys.